All right. Okay, here we go. So it is Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. and this is our, hey Elena, welcome, glad you're here. This is our Facebook Live webinar on the perfect storm, ADD, ADHD, spectrum issues, depression, behavior stuff. What kind of the areas that we're going to be covering. I want to welcome you all. I'm really glad that you all are here. Please chime in, tell us that you're here, give us a wave, maybe tell us what area of Houston you're in. If you're here in the Clear Lake area, if you're out in on the west side, north side, wherever you might be, if you want to let us know, we would love to know that. And I just want to welcome everybody on this Tuesday evening. I hope everyone had a really awesome Thanksgiving. Okay, so I have a ton of information that I want to share tonight. Like I've said before, I'm going to do my best to keep it to about an hour. Those of you that know me know that's going to be a rough go. I do have the Facebook Live running, and I do have the Instagram running as well. So we're kind of all over the place here. And I also have another computer over here because what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be going through the slides that I use when I do my live talk here in the office. And I'm just going to be pulling some information out of these slides. I also have my big pile of notes like I always have, so I've got some side information that I want to put out there. But we're going to be covering a lot of this stuff that our kiddos today are dealing with in schools, moms and dads. I know that you guys are struggling. I know that y'all are having a hard time. Hey, Sherry, it's good to see you. I know that some of you are having a really hard time, and my phone is ringing. That's weird. Okay. Did that bump me off? There we go. Hey, Kale. How do you too? Logan's on. Somebody keeps calling me. Okay, this is really messing up my show already. Okay, so I'm going to be going through the slides that I normally use when I do my talk, and then I've got some extra information as well that I want to put out there on top of that. And like I said, I'm going to try and keep it to about an hour. This will just be posted on the Facebook Live. It'll also stay on the Instagram. It stays for a day. I'll download it too and use some of the clips out of there for to put out as well. Please share it with somebody. If you feel like this is some information that some people would like, please let's get the information out there, because not a lot of people, not a lot of chiros even, are talking about this information and how chiropractic can help a lot of these things. I'm really passionate about it. Hey, there's Jordan. Hey, Jordan. And I want people to know, and as far as I know, I'm the only chiropractor in the Clear Lake area that is doing this type of work and talking about these issues with folks in this manner. And if I'm wrong about that, please let me know. If you're a chiro out there, or if your chiro does this type of work, please let me know, because I would love to chat with them so we can work to get together. But I'm really super passionate about this stuff. The kids have become my passion. I want to help as many of them as I possibly can. I want to help them thrive. I want to help them be more resilient. I want to help them be more adaptable. A lot of times these kiddos are just having a hard time settling down. And you know, I've had my own struggles with these issues. Definitely some ADHD as a kid. Lots of learning disabilities. I'm heavily dyslexic. I stutter a little, which you guys will hear tonight. And so I've had a lot of these things throughout the years. So it's made a lot of things a struggle in my life and turned into other things as well. And maybe we'll share about that later. But I really feel passionate about this, and I really want to help as many kids as possible. So that's why this means so much to me. I have grandkids. I have a beautiful niece, and I want everyone to have the opportunity to get this information. I personally found chiropractic in my late teens when I was a competitive Olympic weightlifter, and the chiropractic helped me with my weightlifting, everything. But what I also didn't realize at the time is that it was helping me with my brain. It was helping me study better. It was helping me stay calmer. And the link wasn't made at the time, but now knowing what I know and studying what I'm studying, I can look back at it and go, wow, chiropractic really helped a lot of areas that I didn't even realize, above and beyond the weight lifting and being able to stay fit for that, and for my body to be healthy for that, and then to eventually go on to do very well at that. And even in school, when I was doing my undergrad, I was getting a lot of chiropractic and so forth. So that's kind of where chiropractic came into my life, and then it came in and out for a long time. And currently in my practice, I still do quite a bit of sports medicine, but we have a huge shift. We have a big shift happening in the practice, and we're treating more and more kids. And, you know, like I've told a lot of people, I offer tailor-made health care for active, committed families, and I want to be your pediatric or family chiropractor. So hopefully tonight, with some of the things I want to share with you guys, you can come see me, or if you're not in the area, I'll be happy to find you somebody, so please let us know. Or if you're already seeing someone, stay with them and keep your good chiropractic care going, okay? With all of that being said, one thing I want you to do tonight is I want you to take those old ideas of chiropractic and I want you to put them on the shelf. For the time being, I want you to put those on the shelf, because tonight we're going to be talking about a lot of the science. We're going to be talking about what happens actually happens in the spine and the nervous system when our spine is out of alignment, and why it's so important to have regular adjustments so that we can do this. And this is especially in the kids. Miss Sandra, you're having trouble viewing. Will this be available later? Yes, it will be posted on the Facebook page, so please feel free to come back to the page later and you'll be able to watch it in full. But I hope you're able to stick around to tonight. But thank you for being here as well. So like I said, I want you to put those ideas on the shelf for now, and we're going to be talking about the science about what happens in the nervous system in the spine when we actually have a misalignment. It's kind of a new way of thinking, although these are things that chiropractors have known for a long time. Let's see what else. Chiropractors treat a lot of things, way more than neck and back pain like we think, or an elbow or an IT band if you're an athlete and you've been to your chiro. But I want, again, just expand your thinking a bit. And I want you to think about how we are going to dive in and find the cause and not just treat the symptoms. So again, we want to dive in and find the cause and not just treat the symptoms, okay? And that's what chiropractors do. So DC could actually be doctor of cause, right? And everything we're going to talk about tonight is going to be rooted in science and neurology. And you know, this is nothing against medical docs. Please don't take it that way. Some of my best friends are medical doctors. And they're great at what they do, but they don't always get to the root of things, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Let's see, what else? I know that many of you have tried a lot of different things, and I know for a lot of, when the parents show up here in my office with their kiddos, I'm the last house on the block. So just thank you for being here. Thank you for coming in the office, and let's get started a little bit. So, you know, the kids are running around today. They've got this alphabet soup full of diagnoses, ADD, ADHD, SPD, you know, all the learning issues that come along with these types of things. And, you know, in my mind, the way I think of this stuff, I'm pretty wiggly tonight. Can you all tell? I'm a little nervous. My thing with this a lot of the times is that these are superpowers, right? These are superpowers. These kids are super smart. They are not dumb, for lack of a better word. Please don't take that in the wrong way. They are very on top of things. They see around the corner, and their brains are just moving at a higher speed and rate, and they are thinking faster than we are. They're thinking a lot of times faster than the parents, the teachers, and then they're made to sit in this little box, and they just have a really hard time. So there's nothing wrong with them. they've got big, powerful brains that move really fast, and they're super awesome. We like to say that they just don't know how to put on the brakes. And tonight we're going to talk about that. Their foot is on the gas all the time, and they don't know how to put on the brakes. So we're going to talk about that a bunch. We got some more people here. Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to try and keep track. If anybody has any questions or anything, please feel free to put them in the comments somewhere, and I'll be happy to do that for you. It's interesting, too, all the kids that are coming in the office, they all tend to have the same story. And we'll get down the road a little bit of this in a minute, but they've got gut issues, they have immune issues, focus issues, behavior issues. There's always some similarity in the symptomology, there's some similarity in the history, and it's just a matter of connecting all of these dots so that we can figure out what's happening. Hey, Miss Tasha, I see you out there. So it's a matter of connecting these dots and figuring out what these kids need so that they can, again, be resilient and adaptable and be able to thrive and live at their best. All right? And, you know, a few years ago, if we were having this talk, we would have been talking about genes. You know, they just have bad genes. And that's not so much the thing anymore. Genes aren't always the issue, although we all have a gene for this and we have a gene for that. But what a lot of people don't realize is that genes, they don't turn themselves on and off. They don't have their own, like, light switch. You know, when you go to turn on the light switch, your genes don't turn on their own switch, so to speak. Something in the environment has to happen. Traumas, toxins, and thoughts are the big three, and any combination of those. We're going to talk about those in a few minutes. But those are the things that set a lot of the perfect storm as it gets rolling. Okay, so it's not bad genes, moms and dads. Please don't worry about all that. Okay, so let's move on a little bit here. Let me pull it up on my other computer. I got 20 computers going. So what is the perfect storm, and where is some of this stuff coming from? Well, there's several things that we see in the office on the history that every kid has, like I said, in a certain combination, okay? And I'm going to tell you what these 5 things are. So the first thing is fertility and pregnancy challenges with the mom, okay? The second thing is there's been some sort of intervention during labor and delivery. The third thing is that these kids are just stressed out and they're very colicky, so stressed out, colicky babies. From there, they become stressed, sick infants and toddlers. And then the fifth thing is they end up in some sort of sensory spectrum stuck storm kid. We see this combination of all of them, and these are in the order that we see them most commonly. So again, I'll go through them again. Fertility and pregnancy issues, intervention during labor and delivery, stressed and colicky kiddos, stressed infant and toddlers, and so we're going up in age a bit. And then later on when they come in the office, it's going to be the sensory and spectrum kids that we see. And it's going to be in a lot of different combinations, right? So this has to do with stress, y'all. So if mom is stressed during fertility and pregnancy, then baby is stressed. If mom is stressed during the labor and delivery and there has to be an intervention, then we get even more stress on the kiddo. And then the kiddo is born stressed. So whatever mom eats, kiddo eats. Whatever mom exercises, kiddo exercises. If mom is calm and meditating, kiddo's calm and meditating. And if mom is stressed out, then baby is stressed out. So we see this snowball effect of what's happening, and these are all the things that we see on the intake when the kids are coming in the office. Okay, and we have neurological wiring, so nerves that fire together wire together. So again, we get all up into this. So baby is now wired to be stressed. I was trying to think of my right combination of words there. And like I said, stress mom, stress delivery, stress baby. The nervous system develops first in the kiddos, okay? That's the first thing that's made, and then it directs all the other organs and parts of the body to be made. So nervous system is made first. So you can imagine that if mom is stressed out, then that kiddo's nervous system is going to be stressed out right from the get-go. All right. We also have neuro injury. That's why a chiropractor is important with this. And within the labor and delivery portion, if there's something going on, if there's forceps, if there's a C-section, a vacuum, big hands and twisting and pulling, there's going to be problems in the neck and specifically the upper neck of these kiddos. And it's, again, going to set a snowball effect of what's happening. And that's why it's common that a chiropractor can help these issues, right? And it's interesting. So C-sections are considered normal, right? Or common. They're common, but they're not normal. And so it's really interesting. And a lot of medical doctors don't consider any interventions to be abnormal. They consider that normal, when we can all know that if there has to be any intervention, that's not a normal thing. That's not normal for mom, and that's not normal for baby. Okay? All right. It's just weird doing this talk with nobody in front of me because I can't tell. I'm not getting any feedback. So there's a couple things here. Let's see what else. And also when the kiddos are stressed, so if we have a stressed out kiddo, a sick infant, or a sick toddler, a lot of times what the parents are told is that the kiddos will grow out of it. You know, they'll do a couple rounds of antibiotics, they'll do whatever, and then the kiddos will grow out of it. They'll grow out of it. But what tends to happen is if these issues stick around, if these issues stick around, then they grow into something else. So if a kiddo has ear infections and they're stressed out, then they're going to grow into something else, and they get tonsillitis and adenoid issues and so forth and so on. These things will also become allergies and asthmas. Allergies and asthmas then can actually become ADDs and ADHDs. So there's a huge progression that comes along here. And these are, and I'm not trying to do scare care, but if we talk to the people that we know that have some of these issues, we see all of these things happening. Okay. All right, let's see. All right, we're going to go on to the next thing. So the next thing I want to show you guys is this guy back here. So I'm going to try and make sure everybody can see it. I drew it on the board. And this is our, I think it's going to be backwards for my Instagram people, but hopefully you can follow along. So the issue with these guys and these gals and girls, and adults too, we all see adults with this. We all have a little bit of this, right? We all have it. I have it. Moms and dads, you guys have it. Everyone's got something going on, right? But what tends to happen, what's happening here, is that their foot is on the gas pedal. So they're in this stressed out state. Their foot is on the gas, and they don't know how to pull it off. This is our sympathetic nervous system. This is when we're being chased by the bear. So back in olden days, you're walking across the prairie and the bear comes along and he chases you. Your sympathetic nervous system is going to go through the roof so that fight or flight so you can survive. That's a very positive thing. We're supposed to have that, right? But it's supposed to go right back to normal. But what's happening with us today, and we see it so much with our kids, is that it goes up and then it never really comes down. It just stays in this underlying state. And now these kids are battling being in sympathetic mode all the time. And if they're always fighting the sympathetic mode, if they're always in fight or flight, then they can't have other things happen. So then they tend to slow down growth. They tend to not hit their milestones. They tend to show signs of hyperactivity or lack of focus. So you'll see some of these. Now, not every kid's going to hit a milestone exactly where the book of milestones says that they're supposed to hit it. There's going to be a little bit of play in there. But we all know our kids, and we know if they're a little bit off. But if their body's always in this mode, if they're always being chased by the bear, then they're not going to be able to grow and thrive and do all the things that they're supposed to do, okay? But when we were able to put on the brake pedal, this is when we get more into this parasympathetic mode. This is our rest and digest, right? And this is where our wellness comes in. This is where we have a healthy immune system, and we also have healthy digestive issues. So when we were talking earlier about how we see all these same things tend to rise up in these kids, it's because it's all connected. Immune, digestive, I don't remember where my list went. There was a whole bunch of them. Gut, immune, focus, and behavior, right? Funny four. With those four. And so that's what we see with these kiddos, is we see this cycling through over and over again. And these kids are just kind of always sick, right? Kind of always sick. So there's a couple different drives here. We talked about the sympathetic drive, being chased by the bear, parasympathetic. So what's going on, like I said, is too much sympathetic. They're getting a constant input to the brain, and they need to be in constant protection mode. They get deprived of what is on the brake side of the system, okay? And they can't, and there's a famous quote by a gentleman named Dr. Lipton, and he says that you can't be in growth and protection at the same time, which is fascinating. As we get a little further down the road on this, you're gonna hear that some more. And like I said, there's 3 kinds of stress, and the kids get this way more today. Traumas, toxins, and thoughts. And these are the chronic issues with our kids. They get overwhelmed and they get stuck. And so what's happening from like a speedometer, tachometer standpoint is they're over here. They are just redlined all the time. They're over here. My marker's not working. They're way over here somewhere. And they just can't slow down. They just don't know how to do it. And things help, right? There's things out there. Exercise for our kids helps. Changing their diet helps at times. Lots of different things can help, but if we're not calming that nervous system better, for lack of a better word, then that's why this stuff doesn't help. This is the parents that come to us and say, hey, we've tried everything, and now that they're getting adjusted, we see such a huge change in little Johnny or Sally. The girls tend to get a lot of anxiety. They just have anxiety, and they tend to turn inward, and they tend to start getting body issues early in life, and so forth and so on. The boys tend to just go big and go hyperactivity and jumping off roofs and like all these types of things. Some of that's normal. Kids do that, but there gets to a point where this becomes the new normal. So being in the red becomes a new normal, and now they have to do things to excite them that are over the top, right? They're over the top, and that's what we see with these kids. Let's see. Excessive sympathetic mode, all their brain sees is stress, and that's the lens that they see everything through, just like we were just talking about. So hyperactivity, impulsiveness, and behavior issues, okay? There's too much energy in the system, and it's like they have Metallica on the brain all the time, right? It's like it's playing in there all the time. Some of you may know kind of what I'm talking about. So that's the first part of the stress stuck on. The second part is there's a poorly organized. They're poorly organized. So the fact that they have so much energy and so much stress, now they're not organized as well as they should be. I hate to use the word should, but I'm going to use it a little bit. So when we're going through the care process with the kiddos in the office, the first thing we have to do is calm the system down and then reorganize the system. And that's what the nervous system does when we're doing the adjustments on the kiddos and the adults. It calms the system and then it reorganizes it. The analogy that I use is like cleaning out your junk drawer. So you're in your kitchen and you got your junk drawer, you pull the junk drawer out and you dump it out, you put it back in, and then you start organizing it. And you know, this is going in the trash, this is going to whatever, this is going back in the drawer. And that's what our nervous system does. So it takes a while. This isn't a home run, one shot, hole in one type of deal, right? We got to look at the whole picture. And that's where some of our sensory processing issues come in as well, because if they're not organized well, they're not going to process well, right? The brain is one big sensory organ, and its job is to perceive the environment and then respond. So again, if we're in this overdrive mode and the gas pedal is on, right, and we're always being chased by the bear, then our perception right out of the get-go is being chased, and then our response is going to be over the top. right? And that's where these kids get in trouble, is that their responses are based on being chased by the bear. And so, like I said, if the brain is getting bad information, then the information that it puts out. So it's no wonder that these kids act out the way that they do. This portion is really overlooked a lot of times with the kiddos with hyperactivity and some of these other issues, is this reorganization aspect of it. This is why the folks that do therapy, I have worked with some of the folks in the area that have therapy places, and they say that the kids that are getting chiropractic care respond better to therapy, and it's because we've had the opportunity to take the gas pedal off, and now they're learning how to put on the brake pedal. The kids are learning about the brake pedal, their nervous system's learning about the brake pedal, and now they can actually learn better, focus better, intake information better, and then process and respond better. And that's what we're looking for. So they're processing information so fast that the information actually pings off of them. This kind of gives you a little bit of the spinning kiddos. So when they're going through their normal development processes, they can't absorb things because they're moving so fast. Lots of learning disabilities with these kiddos. What starts as hyperactivity can become developmental delays because they just can't slow down, okay? Just because they can't slow down. A word that you're going to hear me talk about in a little bit is called subluxation. That's just a fancy chiropractic word for being out of alignment. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And it just means stress stuck on. That's the only thing I want you to think about when we talk about that. One more thing about this, about our chart here and the brake pedal. When we do the adjustments on the upper neck, on the very top part in the adults and the kiddos, one of the things that gets stimulated is the vagus nerve, okay? The vagus nerve is one of your cranial nerves. It comes out of the back of your brain, and it runs right next to your C-spine, so right next to it. So if this is the vertebra, the nerve just runs right down. It goes to the gut. It has breathing, interventions to breathing, and actually heart rate as well. And so when we do the adjustments, it stimulates that vagus nerve. A lot of times the vagus nerve has low tone. It has low tone. Now the vagus nerve is mostly parasympathetic. It's a parasympathetic nerve. Jumping off yes, for sure. Hey, Michelle. So when we do the adjustments on the upper cervicals, we stimulate that vagus nerve, and we stimulate the tone in the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is mostly parasympathetic, right? So now we can put our foot on the brake pedal, and things can calm down. There's a lot of stuff that actually stimulates the vagus nerve. There's a good book on Amazon right now, and I can't remember the name of it. If you go there and search vagus nerve therapy or vagus nerve intervention, I can't remember, you'll find it. But there's a lot of things that will stimulate that. Humming, chanting, hot and cold will stimulate it. There's a lot of different things that will stimulate that vagus nerve, and it's very calming to the system. Chiropractic will get right up there. Kids with tics and seizures and stuff like that, we can get right in there, stimulate that vagus nerve, and there's a huge calming effect. But remember, y'all, I'm a chiropractor. I do not diagnose, treat, or cure anything. I do not diagnose, treat, or cure anything. We stimulate the nervous system. We find the issues within the nervous system and within the spine and the nervous system, and we take them out. Well, we take out interference in there, right? And what's cool about chiropractic is it's non-invasive and it's non-pharmaceutical. So it's a great way to get into the nervous system and not have to do it with some of these other ways. Anyway, I'll step back from that. So vagus nerve, calming, like we said, mostly parasympathetic, digestion, breathing, sleeping, social, emotional connecting, right? It's the governor of a lot of systems. It's where a lot of abnormal behavior comes from. So if it doesn't have enough tone, then we're not going to be relaxed enough. And the upper neck, like I said, these few upper vertebra really stimulate it. What's interesting too is the vagus nerve is very susceptible to chemical toxins and also addictions. So we know that with folks that have a lot of addiction issues, they could have a vagus nerve issue. And kind of interesting stuff there. Let's see what else. I think that's it on that. So let's move on. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I would love to answer them. We talked about the Bruce Lipton quote. I'll just throw it out to you. The function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells, right? The function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate the behavior of all other cells. So again, if we're not perceiving well because we're being chased by the bear all the time, then we can't coordinate behavior. Okay, so it's hard to coordinate behavior. Moms and dads out there, behavior is a big key word in that quote. That's a lot of times what people, thank you, Cody, assessing the healing power of the vagus nerve. Boom, I knew Cody would find that for me. Okay, so let's see where we're at here, everybody. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I want to talk about neuroplasticity real quick before we get into some more of the nuts and bolts of this stuff. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change, right? We have more neuroplasticity when we're younger, and as we get older, we have less neuroplasticity. This is why a young child can learn to play the violin really, really well, whereas an older person, they're not going to learn, they can learn to play the violin, but they're not going to learn it as well. It's going to take them a lot longer. What's interesting about this is the younger we are, the less stimuli we need for more growth or to learn more. As we get older, we need way more stimuli for a lot less return, right? So again, I'll say it again. When the kids are young, they need very little stimuli for high return on learning, right? Instruments, sports, languages, all these types of stuff. Same thing. When we get older, we need a very high amount of stimulation for very low return. An older person can learn a language, but they're just not going to learn it as well as a little kiddo, right? So that's neuroplasticity. When we do the adjustments on the upper spine, we know that it stimulates neuroplasticity in the brain. So it stimulates change with these guys. Again, neuroplasticity, upper cervical spine, stimulates change in the system. They've done studies where they'll adjust a group of people, they'll take a class and then take a test, and then they'll have another group that doesn't get adjusted, they take the same class, the same test, they don't do as well. And they play with where they put the adjustment. Some people will take the class, have the adjustment, and then the test. But anytime they throw the adjustment in there, they get better results on the test. So there's a stimulation in the brain, and a lot of it has to do with the neuroplasticity and the learning part of the brain. And that's part of the reason why chiropractic works so well with these kiddos, okay? And why it stimulates the therapy part, why the therapists love us, why we magnify therapy for so many people, okay? All right, let's see. So how does the spine fit into all this? Great question. I just asked myself. Whenever there's a disconnect in the system, like I was talking about, whenever there's a subluxation or a misalignment in the spine, we're going to get some sort of symptom, whether it's ADD, a headache, an ear infection, constipation, all different things for different people, right? So the spine is the middleman between the brain and the body. So if there's a misalignment, it's like we're talking on a fuzzy cell phone. So that's where a lot of that comes in. And so when we do the adjustments, we realign so that the brain can talk to the body more clearly and get a better connection. And then it's also a reboot. It's a reboot to the nervous system. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Okay, let's move on, everyone. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about are, we're going to call them the 4 Ds. 4 Ds. The first D is dyskinesia. Dyskinesia. Now, dyskinesia is when we have a misalignment in the spine and then a fixation. So it's a misalignment and then a fixation in the spine, okay? That's where the problems come in. It's actually not the misalignment that causes the problem. It's the fixation. When we have a fixation and it gets stuck, that's where we get into trouble. And that's when we get the subluxation and the misalignment in the spine, and then the nervous system starts to send loops, that we're going to talk about in a minute. This is where we see a lot of our ADHD and different things show up on the scans we do, way up in the upper neck. We also see this with ear infection kiddos, because that upper spine gets, I'm going to use the words locked down for lack of a better term, and then the plumbing parts of the ear can't drain the ear properly, right? So that becomes more of a plumbing issue instead of an actual infection issue. When we have altered movement, then we have altered information going to the brain. So the spine is supposed to move. Movement is life. Movement is food for the spine and the brain. When you can't move and when things are locked down, that's when we get into trouble. Movement actually calms and connects the brain. So we want to move. That's why these kiddos, we're going to talk about this too in a minute. That's why these kiddos get twitchy. Like why I'm twitchy right now, right? That's what's happening there. And there's a couple different ways that that stuff shows up. So dyskinesia is the first D, and it's a misalignment and a fixation, okay? Where a lot of these misalignments and fixations come from in our little kiddos is the birth process. You can even have a fairly healthy birth, a vaginal birth, and still have misalignment in the spine. Many studies have been done. One in particular found that 99 out of 100 kids that were examined, they found that 99 of 100 of the kids that were examined had misalignment in the spine after normal births, right? So we all know the birth process is a rough thing, and so we all know that there's something's going to go on there. When we really get into trouble is with C-sections. C-sections cause all kinds of problems, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have C-sections. C-sections are a very good thing at times. They're life-saving for mother and baby, so I'm not saying that we shouldn't have C-sections at all, but they should be much lower. The World Health Organization says that it should be 5 to 10% of births should be a C-section. The average in most hospitals runs about 35% or more, and there's some hospitals I know in the Houston area that are up around 45 and 50% of C-sections. So there's something going on there, but that's where that's coming from, is from there. And like I said earlier, most MDs see interventions as normal, and I want you guys to remember too that after the doctor, the OBGYN, after you have the baby, he or she never has hands on that baby again. Now you go to the pediatrician, right? So the obstetrician never really sees what goes on with that kiddo after the birth process, right? And so there's a lot that goes on. If you come to my talk, my live talk, I actually show a video of a C-section, and it's a pretty rough process. Most people have never seen that, and it can be quite startling for a lot of folks. There's a lot that goes on there. The way they take the head and they tilt it to the side, and then they rotate it, and then they pull. And there can be up to 80 to 90 pounds of pressure on the baby's upper neck in the upper C-spine. That's a lot of pressure, y'all. If I picked up a baby like that here in my office, I'd be in big trouble. I would never do that, by the way. I love the babies. But that's what's going on in there. So remember, we have the traumas, toxins, and thoughts. So right out of the gate, a lot of these kiddos are having these traumas, and it's causing this dyskinesia in the upper cervical spine. Let's see. We talked about that. Okay, let's move on. So that was our first D. Let me see what I got over here. I've got lots of references if anyone ever needs any. So our next D is disafferentation. Disafferentation. This is an abnormal input to the brain. So we have dyskinesia, misalignment and fixation. The misalignment and fixation causes disafferentation. That's an abnormal input to the brain. It's noise. Remember the Metallica we were talking about earlier? So these kiddos have this Metallica playing in their brain. They're just stressed out all the time. We have lots of stuff going on in there, so it's a lot of noise. All right? It's a lot of noise. It's abnormal due to fixation, like I said. Lack of movement also shuts down proprioception. So those are my sporting people out there, my CrossFitters and my lifters and my runners and my triathletes, anyone that's competing or just working out, proprioception is how you know where your hand is or how you know where your foot is. If your spine is out of alignment, your proprioception isn't as well. Your body and your brain doesn't know where you're at. So getting regular adjustments while you're training is super important. The muscles work for the nervous system. 90% of brain power is dealing with gravity and mechanoreceptors, again, knowing where we are in space. And those little small muscles around the spine are basically sensors. So again, misaligned, fixated, now those little muscles are doing work that maybe they're not supposed to be doing, and they're going to send abnormal input to the brain. They're going to make noise for the brain. Again, especially the muscles in the neck. These are super important. Deal with it effectively. It can cause cognitive issues, okay? And when a child's brain is stressed out, it craves movement. Like we said, kids and adults, athletes, and adjustments bring back movement. When we're stuck like this is when our brain perceives a lot of fight or flight. So now we're stuck, and now the gas pedal's on, because something's going on and the body doesn't know what it is, okay? This is where tics can show up. So a lot of times you'll see tics with these kiddos. It's them trying to calm the brain because the spine's not doing its job and we're not moving well. And this is also the sensory seeking. So those of you that are familiar with some of these terms, some of this is the sensory seeking. You're gonna see them in the neck. A lot of these kids will kind of do this neck thing. You're going to see it with their mouth. They might be biting their fingernails. We see that a lot. Chewing gum, chewing the insides of their mouth. So just kind of any kind of oral. Maybe they may even be humming to themselves or doing things like that. They're trying to calm. Hands, they're going to be feeling things or picking at their fingernails or maybe even just like hand wringing a little bit. Kids that walk on their toes. This can be part of that too. They're looking for that sensation from their feet. And then there's also the private parts. So a lot of these kids will touch their private parts and so forth and so on. So these are the areas where we usually see this type of stuff come up, okay? So we had the dyskinesia, we had the disafferentation, and now we're gonna have, the next one is dysautonomia. Dysautonomia. This is the gas versus the brake. Look at my other notes here. Dysautonomia. Brain perceives everything as stress, so we have a shift in the nervous system, and now we start to get hardwired being stressed out. So remember earlier I mentioned nerves that fire together wire together. So that's what we see there. Nerves that fire together wire together. So now everything is going to be wired in a stressed out mode. Everything's going to be wired in a stressed out mode. This is where the vagus nerve also comes into play. It starts in the brainstem, like we talked about. Slows the heart rate, breath, esophagus, stomach, top 2/3 of digestion. This is why kids with ADD and so forth tend to have colicky, reflux. Some of them can be underweight and maybe even small at times, okay? So everything is hardwired. And then the fourth D is dyspoesis. Dyspoesis, this is an abnormal energy input, I don't even know what I typed, and control. So this is a behavior thing. So this is our output. So the one before it was garbage in, and now we're getting garbage out, okay? The kids are sensing too much stress, and so they are gonna respond to that like we talked about. This is our impulsivity, our tantrums, and again, our sensory seeking. So these kids are so on the right, they're so fired up that this becomes the new normal. This becomes the new normal. And they still want to be stimulated though. Like, so they have to do things that are above and beyond so that they can get the stimulation that they're looking for, okay? Anybody have any questions out there? Let's see. What else do we got? All right, so next I want to talk about, there's 3 types of kids that we see come through the office. 3 types of kids. We have the raging bull, okay? This kid tends to be kind of stiff and tight. He's very tense, he or she. They have very high energy on our scans. These guys have a lot of impulsivity. They're redlining all the time, tantrums, the metallica in the brain, like we talked about. These kids have tough transitions, okay? So they have tough transitions. So this is getting up in the morning and getting to school. This is school to home. This is transitioning from being on summer break and going back to school. Maybe coming off the Thanksgiving break that we just had. These kiddos are going to have a hard time getting back into school. So they really have a hard time with transitions. They can be the easy little, what we would call easy little transitions throughout the day, or the bigger transitions that happen kind of with life. What's interesting about these kids is that they're very, very smart. Genius levels. These kids are going to be our CEOs and our inventors, and these kids can see around the curve, right? They kind of see what's coming. So they're super bright, right? They're super bright. The second type of kiddos we see in the office are the drunken bulls. These tend to be kind of sloppy through their core, floppy. They tend to slouch a lot, roll their shoulders forward, these types of postures. They have a lack of focus and motor control. So these kids might be tripping a lot. These kids might have the intern toes a little bit. So they're kind of floppy, their toes are in, they're kind of all over the place, they're chasing squirrels, this type of thing. Like I said, they're going to lack hand-eye motor control. And they lack motor planning, and sometimes they'll have some speech issues. So those are our drunken bulls, right? The third type that we see in the office is a raging drunken bull. Yes, I combined them all. This is actually the most common, and it's just a combo of both. So I really want you guys to kind of think about this as like a sliding scale, right? And some kids are going to come in and they're going to be way more raging bull, and then other kids are going to come in and they're going to be way more drunken bull. Not right or wrong, it's just different. And what's interesting about this, though, is this combo, this gets us into more the autisms, right? It gets us more into the autism. So you're going to see like just huge combinations of these things, right? Of all of these issues come together with that. Let's see. Talked about that. Abnormal energy outdoor. We did perfect storm. Okay. So now what, right? We've talked about all this stuff. When you come in the office, what we do is we run a set of scans. Some of you that are watching now can see, and we can actually measure these things. We can see what is actually going on in the nervous system, and then we know how to proceed from there with care, right? And this, again, it's true of the kids and the adults. I get adults with these symptoms all the time, and we scan them and we see the same things that we see a lot of times with the kiddos. So we just have to figure it out. Are you having issues like this? Is someone in your family having this? Is this something that your kiddo is having? You know, a lot of times it's not the alphabet soup diagnosis that the kiddo has that drives them into the office. It's some sort of behavioral issue. It's something going on at school. It's that they can't play sports. It's that they can't go to the mall and act right. It's that they can't go to a sleepover. It's that they're not doing well in school, or mom and dad are just at the end of their rope. And that's all good. Moms and dads, you guys are doing great. That's not what this is about. We get it. Taylor Sport Chiropractic gets it. But that's what we're seeing. So when we use the scans, we can actually locate and quantify what's going on in the spine, and then we know exactly where to adjust, what to adjust, and how often to adjust, right? So we're going to take a lot of different things. We're going to take the scans, we're going to take the history, we're going to find out what mom and dad are saying, depending on the age of the kiddo. We're going to talk to them as well. We're going to find out what they're after. We're going to find out exactly what your goals are, and then we're going to figure out how to get you there. And that's what we do here in the office. So we've been treating a lot of kids with this stuff. We've got everything from a 1-year-old little boy that came in just super congested, ear infections, just a stressed out little guy, just arching his head back, just super uncomfortable. He couldn't lay on his back. He wasn't sleeping at all. Just all kinds of stuff going on. He's come to see us over the last month and a half, and his ear infections are gone. Most of his congestion is gone. He's sleeping at night. Mom is able to read him stories. He's just a much happier kid. His skin complexion is better. His eyes are cleared up. He's just a joy to be around. And you know, he was pretty rough when he came in. Some of the other kids that we have coming in, we seem to be getting a lot of boys in the 10-year-old range, a lot of ADHD, behavior issues, just really high anxiety type stuff going on. So we're seeing a lot of that. Just again, that inability to be resilient and adapt, and that's the stuff that we're seeing. And those are the types of words that the moms and dads are using here in the office. A couple of these kids, again, same thing. They're sleeping through the night. They're feeling better. Some of their little movement tics are going down, but we're just seeing really good results. They're more emotionally stable, so they're able to handle things a little better. A lot of times when these kids come in and they start getting under care, they start to gain weight. So a lot of times these kiddos, they tend to come in a little thin, maybe a little small, and they actually start to gain weight. So we see them plump up a little bit, which is awesome. They're focusing better in school. Their grades are getting better. So just tons of stuff of positive things that we're seeing here in the office. And earlier on, I was saying I don't know of any other chiros that are using chiropractic in this fashion for these types of issues. And again, if there is someone out there doing it, please let me know. Here in the Clear Lake, Southeast Houston area, I know there's a great practice over in the Sugar Land area. Dr. Gina Payne, she's awesome. She's over there. Up on the north side of town, there's Lauren Baker. She's up by Humble, and she's doing this kind of work, and she's doing a great job. But I don't know of anybody here and that's talking about this and these issues and taking this approach and has this much passion about it. Like I've said before, if I can help one kid, if I can help one family not go through what I've been through and not go down those rabbit holes, you know, it's all worth it in the long run. So as far as I know, it's, you know, I'm the only one, and it's become my obsession and my pet passion. But those are the types of things that we're seeing in the office, and we're loving it. It's super exciting. And we couldn't ask for anything better. With all that being said, what I'd love to do tonight is I'd like to put a special offer out there for y'all. If you're listening and your interest is piqued and you would like to come in, I really believe that we all deserve to get scanned. I feel like we all deserve to know what's going on in our body and what would be a good way to deal with some of this stuff. And I know that it's the last house on the block, and I know that moms and dads, I know that you're out there struggling. So what I would like to do is offer a half off offer tonight. So if you are interested in coming in and you've never been in our office, it's normally $150 to come in and get the first, it's a 2-day process. You come in on the first day, we do all the scans, the history, we talk about chiropractic, what's going on with the kiddo or the adult in the family. And then you come back for a second visit and we go over the scans together, we go over what your goals were, and then I would lay out a care plan. And so what I'd like to do is offer that for $75 tonight. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this offer until 5 o'clock tomorrow night. So until 5 o'clock tomorrow night, you have the opportunity, and I'm going to give you a cell phone number. The number is 713-373-7051, and you can either call that number, leave your name and phone number, just say that you want the special offer from the Facebook Live, and we will call you back and we'll get you on the schedule. You can also text that phone number. So again, it's 373-7051. That's the texting phone number. You can call it or text it, like I said, and that's the Taylor Sport Chiropractic cell phone, and we'll be happy to honor that. And please share this. If your neighbor down the street has a kiddo or something and you feel like they could benefit from this, please share it with them. Have them call, mention the Facebook Live. I'll be happy to honor it. I want to help as many kids and families in my area as I possibly can. And I want to get the word out about chiropractic and how it can help a lot of these issues. And so if nobody else has any questions or anything going on, please, you can put a comment in. I will put the phone number. So 5 p.m. tomorrow's the 28th. So by 5 p.m. tomorrow, I hope to hear from a few of you. I hope that this answers some questions. If you'd like to call the office and just chat with me, I'll be happy to chat with you as well. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be on here tonight, and I hope that some of the information today really helped you guys out. And just as one more thing, I'm going to be doing a live talk on January 16th, I think. It's a Wednesday night at 6:30 or 7. And it's going to be the same talk, but with slides. We'll have food. It'll be the whole setup like I did last month. And there'll be several other things throughout the way. And there's a ton of Facebook Lives on here. So again, 5 p.m. tomorrow, $75. Feel free to come in the office. It's been great speaking with you. I hope I helped somebody. And have a great night, everybody. Peace out.